you don't follow Allah, we're gonna behead you. What's the white man gonna do? He's gonna send FEMA. He's gonna send National Guard. He's gonna take over their ass. So when you come in another person's land and then you set up your own little jurisdiction and law and you try them, that's madness, man. You know, that's wickedness. You know? Oh yeah, there's more in the next page. So should be, yeah.
Alright. Such religious terrorism was no less active in the land seized by England, France, or the Dutch to the north of Spanish America. For example, after the arrival of the first Jesuits in New France, which is now Quebec, in 1611, that order declared open warfare on the Indian nations allied with the rival English, and even any neutral Indian nation, like the Algonquins, as a major actor and investor in the fur trade. The Jesuits stood to profit by eliminating Indian nations that diverted furs into English hands. And so, by 1640, the Jesuits had agreed to a plan with Governor Montgomery of New France to hunt down and exterminate all non-Christian Algonquins.
Yeah, so they had the Jesuits, which they, whenever you read about the Jesuits, all they proclaim is holiness and righteousness, man. Those are just agents, man. Those are devils. When they went, there's a movie called Black Robe. If you watch it, that's what the Gadda's call them, the Black Robe, because they were in all black robes, and they went around, and what they did, they preached their bullshit basically. But what they really did, they trafficked guns. That's how the Gadda's got guns, the gunpowder, rum. They also trafficked smallpox and blankets, and they handed them out. That's what the Jesuits were used for, man, and to corrupt their mind with madness, with Caesar Borgia. All right, that's what they're agents, man. They work for the Pope, or the Black Pope. All right, which is the Pope behind the Pope, basically. All right, the general. All right, go ahead.
The Jesuits, the Black Robe missionaries, spread smallpox, firearm, and alcohol among the Algonquins of eastern Canada so effectively that over 3/4 of them were wiped out within a generation. The disease spread to neighboring tribes, with the result that even French allies of the Hurons were hugely depopulated and made virtually extinct by the year 1700. The English as well relied on germ warfare as a chief weapon against hostile native tribes, as described by British General Geoffrey Amherst in July 1763 in a letter to a subordinate regarding the local Micmacs.
Yep, and a lot of those English, they're actually Edomites when you read about it, because the crown at that time were Jakes, those were Israelites. But the 13 colonies, they actually weren't British loyalists. They were actually bums, man. Like Ben Franklin, all those assholes. They were criminals, man. Those were Edomites that left England, all right, under the black rule, and they came here. And what happened was, I had a document. It was King James II, which was the son of King James. In America, there was a revolt against King James II. And what happened was, a lot of Edomites that were enslaved, because you had Jakes that came here, and what happened was, a lot of Edomites came too, and the Edomites, they took over the British officials, I should say, which were Jakes, and they held them hostage in America, and there was a revolt against King James II. So a lot of things you read, those are Edomites, man. Those weren't Jakes, because they might call themselves Englishmen in England, but they weren't true Englishmen. All right, those were Israelites ruling in England. So a lot of the people that came, those are criminals, man. The people on the Mayflower, those are all Khazars, you know, those are the so-called Jews, criminals. They just let out, and they just went to the New World, you know. Go ahead.
You will do well to try to inoculate the Indians by means of blankets, as well as to try every other method that can serve to extirpate this execrable race. I should be very glad if your scheme for hunting them down by dogs could take effect. I would rather choose the liberty to kill any savage that may come in our way, and to be perpetually doubtful whether they are friends or foes.
So that's bullshit about, oh, they came and they had a feast and they're all peaceful. No, he said, I don't give a shit if they're friend or foe. I'm not taking the chance. I'm going to kill them. That's what he said. All right, go ahead.
In 1749, the Nova Scotian legislator passed a series of scalping proclamations, which rewarded 10 pounds sterling to anyone who delivered the scalp of a male Micmac Indian to a local magistrate. 5 pounds was offered for the scalp of a woman or child.
So they didn't care about the women or children, man. So what makes you think we're gonna care about your children, man, or your women? You know, it tells you in Ezekiel 9:4, it tells you straight up that slay utterly old and young, you know, male and female, man. All right, you know, go ahead.
As among the Spanish, Indians who converted to Christianity were generally spared outright murdered by the French and English, who usually enslaved them. Indian slavery was instituted by both nations during the fur trade wars of the 1600s, and continued until well into the 19th century. By 1761, over 1/10 of all registered burials in Montreal were those of Indian slaves who were called Panis, which is a derivation of the name for American Pawnee Indians, who also faced enslavement. Much of early Halifax in Montreal was built by both Negro and Indian slaves.
There you go. So you assholes saying that oh, Indians were enslaved, they just told you that. Plain. The only reason why it didn't continue, if you watch Goodbye Uncle Tom in the beginning, it shows you the gathered in the prison. They were what Esau called stubborn or hard-headed. They wouldn't breed in slavery. They wouldn't do any work. They would just die basically. So that's why they had to import Negroes there, man. All right.
And then the next thing, white guys always try to come up, Edomites always try to come up and say, oh, you guys might have built America, but here in Canada, you guys didn't do shit.
Yeah.
Well, according to that document and other documents, we built up this place, man.
Exactly. Montreal and Halifax. Yep. And all of them too, man.
Yeah,
you know.
Upper Canada,
Yeah.
Lower Canada.
Yeah. You know. Yep. Exactly. Good.
Although the colonial authorities preferred the latter because of their cheap availability.
And then also, since you mentioned that, you had I remember one guy, he came up, he said, oh, because he looked at the sign, he said, oh, the natives, they're fighting the blacks about in the south, in like Georgia or somewhere, or South Carolina, about a fort that the Negroes had, but it was Indian land or something. They're fighting about it. You had all kinds of intertribal warfare, man. You know, just because you have fighting, that doesn't mean anything, man. Really, Esau. There's another book I had, I didn't bring. It's called Black Indians. It tells you Esau how he fought. He really paid off tribes, and the best thing for him was division, divide and conquer. Right? That's what originally democracy means. Because the word demo, if you look it up, it goes back to demo, which means divide basically, and krasi is Greek for power, so it means divide and conquer, which another word for conquer is power basically. So democracy, I'm gonna bring no, that means divide and conquer, man. You know, liberalism, Republican, all that. You're divided. Your ideologies are totally divided, man. And since you're divided, you have that one person at the top just laughing at you because he controls both sides, man. And you people are divided anyway. All your presidential debates and all that madness, that's foolishness, man. That's total madness, you know. And then you had a guy, a video, I think it was in the 80s or 90s, he was in court, and they asked him, oh, did you develop a machine that can forge votes? And he said, yeah, you know. And then they said, oh, so this, you're telling me this machine, it doesn't matter who votes, you can literally forge votes without anyone noticing? And he's like, yeah, you know.
Just so calm about it too,
you know? Yeah, because he knows they can put me in jail, but in a couple of days I'm gonna be out. You know?
Get him off the back door.
Keep going on.
You want me to read any of this or just skip the news?
Yeah. Which one's out? Yeah, please read that.
You want me to just start from the top or just read from the brackets?
Yeah, just read brackets.
Okay. Further, the Crown had granted the Roman Catholic Church absolute hegemony in Lower Canada, which is Quebec, to operate schools, hospitals, and civic life in return for ensuring a domestically tranquil populace. This power allowed the Catholic Jesuit order to establish the first boarding schools among Indian nations. During the 1820s, a practice soon copied by the Anglican Church in Upper Canada, which is known as Ontario, where the first Indian boarding school, the Mohawk Institute, was established in Brantford in 1832.
Yep. So the first residential school was established in Ontario in Brantford, and we're actually going by there around that area. All right, because the brother has some documents on the guy, the Jake Brantford Chief Joseph Brantford, right? Or Brant. It was named after him, and he was basically a Mason, but that's going to be later on the show. All right, so we're just going into the whole breakdown of, you guys think Canada's such a nice place, and it's made out of lollipops and cotton candy. You think it's a dream, it's a Willy Wonka wonder world. Canada's better at hiding things. America, everything is out, everything's exposed. Federal Reserve, your amendments, all the constitutional crap, everything's exposed. In Canada, they first of all, there's less people, obviously. Second of all, people are more scared here, man. But you know what? The Most High, he set up men, and we're gonna expose this, man. And then it tells you he set up men that shall never hold their peace, in the book of Isaiah. All right, so we're never gonna hold our peace, man. We're gonna expose this devil, man. All right, so go ahead.
Within the decade following Confederation, Canada created illegal and police systems to contain native populations as a part of their long-term extermination. The Royal Northwest Mounted Police, forerunner to which is really called the RCMP, in 1873, and the Indian Act in 1876. Both of these institutions were designed to force Indians off their lands onto reservations, and eventually into residential schools to clear the path westward for the expanding Canadian Pacific Railway, created in 1881 to solidify Canada east to west through massive immigration and settlement. Indians on reserves cannot own their own land, elect free and independent governments, conduct their own business affairs, or even provide adequately for their children.
So what is that called? That's called slavery, man. That's called captivity. If you're on your own land and you can't own your own land and you can't conduct your own business, that's called slavery, man. So you people saying, we're all free. This is free. The word freedom means dominion of the free. Dominion means rulership. Are you ruling anything? And then since that word dominion of free, someone is ruling who is free, dominion, and then someone is obviously being subjugated. All right, go ahead.
The act even denies Indians the right to refuse hospitalization or medical treatment, or move about freely.
Yeah, so meaning what they did in the hospitals, they experimented on them. They had the tests, as we read before, with the SS and Nazis. All right, go ahead.
Under Section 35 of the original act, church or government agents could remove any Indian from their home using any force necessary, a provision which allowed native children to be kidnapped into residential schools, hospitals, or any other place, and gave such agents the right to harm or kill their parents if they resisted. Under the same provisions,